Hey loves, I don't know how to tell you this, but your specific person has been dreaming about you. So in this video, we need to get rid of any doubts and put ourselves into a state of absolute belief so we can get to them in the quickest way possible because they're literally waiting for you. And when I say this is going to be much easier than you imagine, it is much easier than you imagine. Welcome back everyone. Today is day 6 of our 7-day manifestation journey, which is absolutely crazy because we're literally only 1 day away from this entire challenge. So hopefully you are having a lot of fun with it. And just a quick announcement, I think I'm going to do an extra kind of exclusive day 8 video for all of my members. So if that is something that you wanted to join into, make sure to click the link in the description. But back to getting rid of this doubt. Most of the doubt that we are having when we are manifesting anything, including our specific person, has to do with the difference of thinking of the end versus thinking from the end. And this is obviously not something new that we haven't talked about in this channel, but I think for this 7-day challenge is so important because that's where doubt arises. When you feel as if there's any difference between who you are and what you want to be, that's when we begin to feel doubt. And we basically begin to look at our external reality and worry about what's going on, how to get rid of it, how to stop it, but that has nothing to do with you, right? You never have to imagine or worry about what's happening around you. We just actually have to align it with the feeling of already being with our specific person. Because as we've talked about before as well, everything in your reality is working out in your favor. Whether or not you want to believe that, your reality is trying to take you in the quickest way possible to your specific person. And in the same way that we talked about yesterday, this path is going to be completely invisible if we are not in the state of being with them. And the more we line with the state that goes against this, the more difficult this is actually going to feel because again, you can't see the state if you are not aligned with it. To reiterate that quote from last time, what we see when we are identified with a state cannot be seen when we are no longer fused with it. And so that is happening right here and right now. But I also wanted to bring up another Neville Goddard quote that makes this idea of thinking of the end versus thinking from the end so much more simpler, and then you'll be able to act it. So it's again, basically the difference between, I've used this metaphor in the past, but this isn't the metaphor for today because I have an even better one. It's kind of like the difference between watching something on TV and actually living through it. When you're watching something on TV, you're thinking of the end, right? You're thinking about what you want. That would be right now, you imagining or contemplating being with your specific person, but not feeling as if it is truly your reality. But instead, if you are thinking from the end, you are actively living that TV show. There's no separation between you and the TV. You are actively in the show. You are experiencing and feeling and imagining everything that's going on. And that's the feeling we want to get with our specific person manifestation. But without going any further, let me read the quote from Neville Goddard. So here's what he wrote. The world which we described from observation must be as we describe it relative to ourselves. Our imagination connects us with the state desired, but we must use imagination masterfully, not as an onlooker thinking of the end, but as a partaker thinking from the end. We must actually be there in imagination. If we do this, our subjective experience will be realized objectively. So I actually also want to go over that first sentence. So the world which we described from observation must be as we describe it relative to ourselves. So the way in which we're describing in imagination what we are seeing or thinking of wanting with our specific person must match the way we describe it in our reality. Basically, realizing and fully committing to this concept that everything that is happening around you is taking you closer to your manifestation. That's something we want to connect to. But then I also want to dive into this concept of thinking from the end, right? You need to be a partaker in this idea. And very simply, this can be the difference between in your imagination, thinking from a third person point of view or from a first person point of view, meaning seeing or visualizing as if you're looking from the outside or as if you are actually experiencing it, right? That's going to make a huge difference. And that might actually be the only thing that you need. But the example that I actually want to use and how we're going to totally change our concept of imagination. And again, because your specific person is actually dreaming about being with you right here and right now, whether we want to believe it or not, that's your reality. But speaking of dreaming, that's the metaphor that we want to use. Because when we think of our imagination, most of the time, we think of it as being something that's fake, right? We imagine something, we're like, oh, that's just in my imagination. And this kind of gives themes back to one of the first videos we made in this challenge of our imagination is either something awesome, like people will insult you by being like, oh, that's just in your imagination, but they'll also describe someone as being very imaginative imaginative, and that's actually a compliment. And so we kind of have this mixed view when it comes to imagination, but most of the time we imagine it as not being real, kind of like a dream, right? But in a dream, let's say you are tonight, you go to sleep and you imagine being with your specific person, but then you find out that you're in a dream, okay? Let's say this is your reality. So tonight, you go to sleep, you're at your honeymoon, you're at your wedding, you're at the whatever, having the best experience with your specific person, and you realize it's a dream. What do you do from then on forth? Do you completely stop interacting with the dream entirely? Do you say, oh, this isn't real, so I should just stop doing anything here? Or would you continue knowing that now you can create it even further or better in any way you want, because now you have the understanding that you are in complete control of this? That's the same thing with your imagination, and the difference between thinking of the end versus thinking from the end. When we are in our imagination, it's not that it's fake or not real. It has everything to do with the way that you are actually creating your reality, and understanding your imagination is thus something that makes you more creative. In the same way that when you look at a dream and you know you're dreaming, you can thus act out and create things even more in alignment with what you want. If you understood or thought of your your dream tonight, if you totally kind of, I forget the name of it, but it's where you can like be aware in a dream. If that becomes you, you would actively start making the dream better. You wouldn't just stop interacting with it entirely, right? You'd be like, oh, if this is a dream, then even this small thing that I don't like, I'm going to change, I'm going to do and put into something that I like instead. That would be your thought process. So why is it not the same thought process when it comes to manifesting our specific person? We actually end up doing the opposite, right? We start to fear or worry or think that it's not possible. That's what we do when we imagine, or when we think of our imagination, right? We don't think of it as being the creative factor, but it absolutely is, because your imagination is what is giving life to everything around you, right? The state of consciousness is being reflected. And even in a basic sense, as I talked to that like previous quote of what we see when we are identified with a state cannot be seen when we are no longer fused with it, means that your imagination is literally the only factor that can take you from where you are to your specific person. The state is defining what you are doing. And if we think about it in relation to this 7-day challenge, the state is the only thing that's going to allow you to see how to get there at the end, right? At the end of the 7 days, which is coming up. And again, if you haven't received or manifested what you want, remember, manifestation is exponential, meaning your external reality literally means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things, because things are moving behind the scenes. It just has to make logical sense. But logic is all up to you and your beliefs. But remember that you are actively in control. And again, going back to that basic sense idea, the way that you're thinking, imagining is going to be your state, which will alter or change the paths that you see right here and right now to your specific person. And so, yes, what I am saying is we probably were in a negative state, saw and had a direct path to our specific person, but absolutely missed it because we were not in a state that aligned with it. Now, don't worry. This doesn't mean that the state is going to completely disappear. This path is going to be completely eliminated. That's not how it works. You always have that path, but it's only available when you're in the state of it, right? It's kind of like, I always like to use the imagery of like walking through a forest where paths appear and disappear based on your sensations or feelings, but the paths are just covered. They're not completely gone. They're just covered by some vines, and it's difficult to see when you're not looking for it. In the same way that if you go throughout your day looking for everything that's red, you will find and see everything that's red. Even do that today. Go throughout, look around the room right here and right now. And you may even know where I'm going with this, but you might look around the room and look at everything that is red, right? Contemplate, make a note of every single thing, and then look back at this video, and without looking or changing or looking away from it, tell me everything that was green, okay? And what you're gonna say is, I don't know, I don't remember, right? All I thought, you might have a couple things in mind, but if you really took this seriously and we're looking for red things, you're not gonna remember all the green things. Now, if you look around the room, you're gonna see green absolutely everywhere, because that's your new state or your outcome. And so the same thing is with our specific person. And again, I also wanted to in this video, because I know time is a factor and I wanted to make time, maybe time will be the last video, so the video for tomorrow, but I wanted to make a video about time because it doesn't matter if so far in the challenge, and again, make sure to keep me updated on everything that's happening with your specific manifestation. But remember, time isn't a factor in manifestation, and it doesn't matter how long it's going to take. And I can actually prove that to you right here and right now with a simple phrase and idea. So remember, when you're with your specific person, let's say you're happy, you're married, you're abundant, everything is perfect, you have kids or whatever you want, okay? Imagine that outcome. Do you care that it took a week or 3 months or 2 years to get there? No. When you're in that state, it doesn't matter how long it took. You will just be happy that you're there. And so it is actually the fear of time that actually gives it attention and effort, or not creates more of it, but it's actually the worry about time that causes your attention to flow to it, which causes it to manifest. So it's like, if we can get rid of this fear or worry about time, then time will cease to exist and you'll get to exactly where you want to go in the easiest way possible. But that's the easiest and most simplest way that I can imagine. And again, when you're with your specific person, you're not going to be worried about how long it took. So why are you worried now, right? It's almost like the process. You wouldn't want to skip the process. You wouldn't want to skip your first date, your first kiss, the first time you guys tell each other you love each other. Or if you've already done that, think of the future stuff. That's like your first vacation, your first and only marriage, right, with them. It's only going to happen. Well, I mean, you could get remarried multiple times to them and just renew your vows. That's awesome. But the first time you get married that's the first time, right? And so always think about it in that perspective, that we don't want to rush this, right? We do, but we don't. Right? We do want to, as soon as you align with the state, things will be moving, but don't judge your progress based on physical things. Because if you judge your progress based on being married to your specific person, obviously, logically, you may not think that they proposed to you today or tomorrow, which is okay, because the bridge of events always happens in a way that feels logical. But instead, them texting you, them calling you, them asking you out on a date, that is going to be good progress. But again, if you're judging it by you being married, that will feel like a failure. But that is the bridge of events taking you from where you are to where you want to go. And it will always happen in that sense. So never, ever forget that, because I do have a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but maybe actually a lot of people that start coaching that kind of have that mindset. So they start to think that they can't, if they are not manifesting everything they want in 5 seconds, that they're a failure. But no, by actually judging it in that way, you're pushing your state to feel of that of someone who fails. And that does not help us out at all, right? That actually goes against what we want entirely. But instead, if you focus on everything being a perfect path, and again, aligning or thinking from the end rather than of the end, you will see a massive difference. And again, so what does this look like? Thinking from the end is the consciousness of being the individual that already has what you want, right? It's a difference between thinking that would be awesome if, and I am experiencing this right now. And you know, it's all like a feeling, because you can actually make that choice. Like, who says, I would say you are on the path to your specific person, but you can convince yourself you're not. And just that simple idea of going, I'm on the path, even if it's hard to believe the whole entire thing can happen. If you just believe I'm on the path to my specific person, you are thus thinking from the end. You are actively looking at things and ways and how you are going to get to your specific person. And that's the vision of someone who is in the state of that. The vision of the person who feels as if they can 100% have exactly what they want. And that's our focus, right? And it is a state of being. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of living. It's a way that you're going to hold yourself throughout the day, right? That is going to be thinking from the end. We're not thinking about something that feels really far off and really difficult to get. No, that's thinking of the end. We are thinking from it. You have the ability. And actually, I would say that might actually be the difference between thinking of the end or thinking from the end. It might be just the thought or belief that you can absolutely do it. That might literally be the only difference when it comes to manifestation. So right here and right now, because I know we could go on forever with this 7-day challenge, but in this 7-day challenge, that's what I want you to focus on. You are legitimately right here, right now, on the path to your specific person, whether you want to think so or not. You can disbelieve this idea or you can believe it. You are on the path, right? Whether or not you're thinking so, your reality is working for you. you could never not be on the path of something that you are moving towards or wanting, right? And so keep that in mind. And so that is going to be the trick and the difference between manifesting what you want and manifesting the opposite of what you want. Because again, your reality is exactly what you are just conscious of being. This also aligns the first portion of that quote, in which the world which we described from observation must be as we describe it relative to ourselves. So if you're on the path, the way you describe what you are observing around you will be in relation to a positive state, meaning you will begin to see how things are actually working out for you rather than working against you. Because even, and I know this sounds crazy, every time I say this, it always is crazy for everyone, even a third party is working out in your favor. Things that are seemingly against you are working out in your favor. And I know on the surface, that's crazy. When we're in a negative state, it's impossible to see it. I know. And it doesn't do any good to try to convince ourselves of this when in a negative state. It's not going to do anything for us. But instead, if we focus on changing our state, then it's going to make sense. Because even thinking of that third party example, the third party makes you look absolutely fantastic, right? In comparison, you look amazing, right? They're doing things that is making your specific person think of you and thinking of how great and awesome and amazing you are. And if you haven't met, they're thinking of the wonderful potential of the individual that you are on and in their mind. So again, I know it sounds crazy, even a third party, it's just the way that we're labeling it, right? That's thinking of the end versus thinking from the end. If you're thinking from the end, the third party makes sense how it's working out in your favor. If you're thinking of the end, thinking about it, that just seems like another obstacle. So hopefully this is making sense. And again, I'm loving everyone's updates in the chat, in the comment section. So make sure to comment yours down below as well. What's going on? Is time kind of a worry? Were you thinking, like, what were you thinking about in coming to this end of the 7-day challenge? Because I guarantee you, people will have had no progress at all, and on the 7th day manifest exactly what they want, or manifest the progress or the logic, the connection, the bridge of events taking them to where they want to go. Because usually it's all an understanding, like I mentioned before. As long as we can understand it, then everything's going to change, because it's the state of consciousness that brings about what we want, not a specific legitimate thing. Because I was gonna put another Neville Goddard quote, but basically he talks about, it's not about imitating what other people do in relation to getting the success you want. It's about you understanding it and becoming conscious of it. Because you can try to imitate some other person's success and manifestation of anything, including a specific person. It's not going to work if your state of consciousness isn't aligned. Basically alluding to the idea as well that you can be in the state when you're in the state, every single action you could ever imagine works out in your favor. Literally, just get into the state, you can literally do whatever you want. You can text your specific person 100 times, right? When you're in a state of confidence, it's going to come off as confident, not as someone who's desperate, right? It all connects to the state, which I know, again, on the surface sounds crazy, but won't make sense until we're in the state of it, because we probably won't even want to do that. We won't want to text our specific person 100 times. So I was reading some of you guys' successes too, which I'll probably include in the video tomorrow, but you guys are manifesting amazingly, even when people kind of are worried or fearful. Is still then seemingly making some huge progress with them. And that's what I look for when I think of someone's success, not physically what they are seeing, because everyone watching this video, no matter how many successes you've had, is just as close to their manifestation as everyone else. So someone who's going on a date with their specific person tomorrow, absolutely fantastic, but is just a state change away from the individual who is in no contact or blocked from their specific person. Literally nothing is stopping it. Tomorrow, that same person can be on a date with their SP, right? There's no limit. We just think it is. And then so because we think of it in that way, it starts to work against us. But don't let it work against you. So any questions, any thoughts, any ideas, comment them down below. If you know for a fact that you are still on the perfect path and you love this video, you like this series, and you want me to do more like it, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video as well. And then make sure to subscribe if you did want to follow along. But again, you don't have to, just come back every single day. We'll be continuing on that path, and I'm excited to kind of see your results, because especially you, yes, I want to see and hear your specific results, because the more active and proactive you are in this process, the more I'll be able to answer any questions that you guys have, like specifically, like I already did in another video, but any questions I see that are really, really good, and don't kind of that align with what I currently want to kind of do or say in the video, I'm absolutely going to answer. So tomorrow is going to be probably a huge question game or a question one for the 7th day. And then remember to, for all my members, I'm going to do like an 8th extra kind of live or video going, because I want to see and basically hear everyone's thoughts on it and then continue on with that. So that is the link in the description. But again, if you did want to reach out to me personally, like send me a message, a question, anything like that, if you didn't want to post here, make sure to head over to kyleaugustcoaching.com. Thank you so much for being patient too, because I do get a lot of your questions. I want to make sure I answer them perfectly in your specific situation. So thanks for being patient with everyone in the process. Again, thank you so much for stopping by today. Again, we're getting close to the end and getting you to your specific person manifestation. So if you are just joining us now, make sure to go back and watch the other videos. You don't have to, I wouldn't say that you have to watch them in order, really. It would be better that way, but if you just watch this one, that's okay. You can jump back to the videos. You can, in a single day, jump to the end, as long as all these concepts make sense, because time, again, is irrelevant in manifestation. But again, thank you so much for following along, for watching today. I'm going to be reading all you guys' comments and updates in this comment section, so make sure to comment it down below, and I can't wait to see you in my next video tomorrow.